Food bloggers, hi, how are you today? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Eat Blog Talk podcast. This is the place for food bloggers to get information and inspiration to accelerate your blog's growth and ultimately help you to achieve your freedom, whether that's financial, personal, or professional. I'm Megan Porta. I have been a food blogger for 13 years, so I understand how isolating food blogging can be. I'm on a mission to motivate, inspire, and most importantly, let each and every food blogger, including you, know that you are heard and supported. A lot of us make products, whether it's a physical product or a digital product or maybe a service or a membership or something like that outside of our blogs. But do we ever stop to make sure that that product or service fills our creative soul as well as making our users happy? And also making us a profit because we can't work for free all the time, right? Kathie Lapcevic from Homespun Seasonal Living joins me in this interview to talk about this very topic. She talks about some things that she has created for her users that are so creative and things that I never would have thought about. In the episode, we talk about how to brainstorm ideas for what products might be a good fit for you and your niche. Also, how to test the idea so that you know it's a good option to move forward with. Kathie talks about investigating your competition so you have a good idea about what's going on currently. An overarching theme of our conversation is just how to sell in a way that feels really authentic and sincere to you, because that is so important when you are selling anything. And we give a little bit of attention to the fact that we do need to make some money. So being cognizant of expenses and your time and all of that. I hope you enjoy this episode. It was such a fun one to record. It is episode number 542, sponsored by RankIQ. Hello there, food blogger friends. I want to take a really quick break from this episode to chat about a few ways Eat Blog Talk can help you to feel connected, as well as to get your hands on relevant, valuable information in 2024. It has been a bit of a tumultuous year so far, do you agree? But you have come too far to stop now. This time is a minor blip in the journey, so buckle up and let's do this journey together and come out on the other side stronger than ever. Eat Blog Talk now has a Facebook group. Go join the Eat Blog Talk community Facebook group to get in on some great discussions. Once you're inside, you will gain access to a free job postings shared document, whether you're offering a service or looking for a service. There's also the new-ish accountability group that Eat Blog Talk offers. This group is a low investment membership for anyone looking to connect with peers and grow your business. This is for newer bloggers, intermediate bloggers, and experienced bloggers. We offer robust calls and Slack discussions and so much more in this group for the low cost of $34 a month. The Eat Blog Talk Mini Minds and Mastermind groups are still being offered in 2024 and beyond. Mini Minds groups start up again in October, and we will start filling the 2025 Mastermind group in late summer of 24. Join the waitlist for one of these groups, and you will not be disappointed. And last but not least, join us at an in-person retreat. If you are ready to learn, grow, and build relationships in person, join me and a handful of your fellow food bloggers at an upcoming Eat Blog Talk retreat. This is such a great opportunity to convene in an intimate setting so you can learn, collaborate, and connect. These retreats involve mastermind-style peer-to-peer collaborating, and they're incredibly powerful, delicious, so much good food, and fun. For all the offerings mentioned, head to eatblogtalk.com and you will be directed in the appropriate way. We are more than just a podcast. Go explore some of these other offerings as your time and budget allows. Can't wait to see you in some of those other places. Now back to the episode. Kathie Lapcevic is a blogger and teacher living in Northwest Montana. She is a quiet rebel embracing a simple and seasonal life that isn't exactly mainstream. She can often be found either making a mess in the garden or in the kitchen, where she focuses on international living that showers love upon the important people in her life. Kathie, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm just great, thanks. Thank you for having me. And how are you today?
Oh, thanks for asking. I'm good too. This is the greatest way to start my day, talking to awesome guests.
Great, thank you.
We're going to talk about creating products today that actually make you feel up and make your customers happy and make you money.
Right.
But before we get to that topic, do you have a fun fact to share with us, Kathie?
Sure. I thought about this because, of course, I listened to the podcast. And the thing I thought about was my name, of all things, is that my full name is Kathie Nicole Lapcevic, and I was named after my paternal grandparents. So my grandma's name was Kathie, and her husband, my grandpa, was Nick. So I'm Kathie Nicole, and their last name was obviously Lapcevic, and I've always just kept my name. And it's just everything. I just for whatever reason, I just love that that's my name, and I relate so strongly to it because my grandma, Kathie, was just such a huge inspiration in my life. And so that's my fun fact.
Oh, I love that. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that strong tie to a name. I mean, we all kind of like our names, right? Because we were given them, but to have a really deep emotional connection with that is so awesome. Love that so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. So to frame our chat today, I would love to hear a little bit more about your blog. Just give us a framework for who you are as a blogger.
Sure. So I will be honest that I started blogging like so long ago. I started blogging when Xanga was a thing, which I think most newer bloggers certainly have never heard of, right? Like well before WordPress, like, LiveJournal and all that kind of stuff. So well before that. And obviously things weren't monetized back then. It was just kind of, you talk to your friends about gardening or whatever. And what I talked about then is still what I talk about now, which was voluntary simplicity and living in harmony with the earth and the seasons. And so that's what I continue to do now. Of course, now I do it a lot more like a business. It is a business. And my main blog is Homespun Seasonal Living. And we talk about living in harmony with the earth's seasons in a way that's simple and doable and skips all the overwhelm. And that includes a whole lot of food, of course, because we talk about eating in harmony with the seasons. We talk about preserving food so that you can eat, peaches in the middle of winter, even if you live in Northwest Montana. And it also includes some other things like gardening and voluntary simplicity and herbs and foraging and all kinds of good stuff. But food is a big component because that is how a lot of people kind of get started on this idea of living simple. And food is just the thing that connects all of us, no matter what, I think. And I come from a long background of, Serbian and Italian. And so food is just a big deal. And so I keep that going as far as the blog. And it has grown over the years. I started doing e-courses and newsletters and ebooks and all different kinds of things. And what has always been important to me is that I never lose sight of the fact that I want it to be simple for myself, but also to encourage other people who want to live that kind of lifestyle. And that I want it to be, without overwhelm for myself to create. But I also, of course, need it to make a profit and do well and feel good. Because, there's no point for me in doing something that I don't feel good about. Like, I don't promote products I don't like. I don't do affiliates if I don't feel good about it. So that's like the most important thing for me. Money is important, of course. We need to pay bills, but it's not the only thing. And I think that resonates with my audience.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like we all do those things that we don't feel good about. And sometimes we can get a little too far down the road and like, oh, this doesn't feel good. What do I do now? As a blogger, there's so many options for things to do. And there's a lot of opportunity to do things that you don't feel good about, right?
Right. But there sure is. And it's really, I don't, it's so easy to get sidetracked by the shiny thing. But yeah, not that I'm perfect. I've done things later and I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. But you just, live and learn. Live and learn. No one's perfect.
Exactly. I think if you're a blogger long enough, you can say that about probably a lot of things and projects that you've done.
Yes, absolutely.
But I love that that's a focus. And I think that should be a priority for a lot of us, is just focusing on feeling good about the things that we're doing, if not everything, then most things, and then getting to the point where you do feel good about everything you're working on. So I have a question about your blog. So at what point would you say that you just decided that you were going to make it a business? You just kind of dug in. I think everyone has that pivotal time.
Right. I started doing a newsletter long before like newsletters were really a thing for bloggers. And I think that was when it started, right then and there. So that's been at least 12 years.
Oh, wow.
At least 12 years. So, and what started was I just started doing a newsletter, and then I started doing e-courses, this was before even like there were software to do e-courses. I just did them through my email list. Like if you sign up for the course, you got a special, everything, your ebooks and everything for the course were delivered through emails, links to the videos on Vimeo and that kind of thing. So that's how it started. And it was slow, and I had Google ads because it was before like Mediavine and Raptive and all those other things. So, and they didn't make a ton of money, but I just slowly built, and I had another job at the time, so it was just slowly building. And even now, one of the things everybody always wants to build really fast, right? And everybody, of course, wants to be like an overnight success, but that's just not how life works. I'm old enough to know better now, of course, and I've been down the road a few times, but yeah, I think I just decided then, like once people signed up for my newsletter and wanted that delivered to their inbox, and I know I still have some of those same original subscribers, like 12 years later.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And I think that's the thing that's always been the number one thing for me is I just really want to relate to people who come and find me. And so that was always the most important thing, and it still is the most important thing. It's more important to me than SEO. It's more important to me than, obviously we need SEO because people need to find you some way, but it's the most important thing to me has always been connecting to the people who sign up for my newsletter.
I love that you have carried on with people who found you so many years ago. Do you still stay in touch with them? Do they reach out? Do you have communication?
They do. And, they follow me on social media, of course, like on Facebook, which is where the majority of my audience is. And so they still comment and will leave me little notes, and I know they're there, and they will send me emails, and they are the people who still buy my products,
Aww.
Right? If I come out with something new. And so, I just want to continue to nurture that. And I value and respect them. And I think they know that. They know that I don't just see them as like, as a cash cow, right? I don't see them as owned. I think they believe that I really want to help them, and I do really want to help them. So that's the good thing.
I love all the things that you value. You value relationships, you value sincerity and simplicity.
Yes.
That is all just great stuff. Okay, so you talked about e-courses that you did a million years ago.
Right.
I think I did some of those too. And it was, you're right, back then there was really nothing to like house that sort of thing. We just kind of figured it out. Like, how am I going to get this out there? You just kind of cobble it together.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure.
So aside from the e-courses, what other products did you start with creating to offer your people?
I do have some ebooks. I've always done, some smaller ebooks are not huge things, but they're helpful. Like I have an ebook that's like a, seasonal guide to spring that includes some recipes and some projects that are like spring focused. I have one for each season, and I have one on preserving tomatoes and hot drinks and things like that. So I had done that and plenty of e-courses. And then last year I kind of on a wild hair, which I support. One of the things about me that's either a blessing or a curse or somewhere in the middle is that I will, whatever I want to do, I'm always just like, well, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yes.
Whatever it is, I'll figure it out. Like the e-courses. Well, there's no software right now, but I'll figure out how to do it. And I figured out how to do it. It may not have been the best or the most streamlined, but it worked. And, and I just, if anything ever goes wrong for a customer, I just always make it right, of course, no matter what. But I try my best to figure out technology. It's not my best. But last summer, I had this idea in my head that I wanted to do like a seasonal subscription box of some sort. And I thought, well, maybe I'd like to do it in a way where like I could share like the herbs that I grow on our little homestead, or like I could share some jams and jellies that we make, or, all that kind of stuff. And then I started looking into the regulations of doing that and shipping it across state lines. And it was just really cumbersome, and I didn't want to take it on. But the idea of sending actual mail to people would not leave me alone. And so what I came up with, I called it the Seasonal Whisper. And it's kind of a letter. It's a 2-ounce letter. So it's a 5x9 envelope, and I fill it full of whatever I can that will fit for a 2-ounce stamp. And it includes a letter about the season. I include some recipes. I include little projects, or maybe a list of books, or, things to help people along. And I include some stickers and a seasonal bingo card, which has been like incredibly, like, it was the thing I stuck in the first summer packet last year. And I thought, well, we'll see if people resonate with this, if they like it. And they really did. and love it. Like, it's the thing that gets shared on social media by subscribers the most.
Is that something you create yourself?
It is, yeah. It's just a bingo card template, right? It's just a standard bingo card, but it has things like the spring card for the issue that just went out in the spring was like, eat a radish, right? Do some spring cleaning. Those are the squares, right? Start a craft project, go on a picnic, eat a salad from local veggies, things like that. You know, and in the winter, it might be like make a cup of hot cocoa or something like that. You know, so there's seasonal activities, and then you can get bingo. I mean, there's no prize, right? It's just to kind of maybe help people focus on the season in a way they wouldn't normally, or just help them understand what is going on in their world. It's a fun way to maybe kind of keep a very light journal if that's kind of what you're into. And so that has been really popular. And I launched it, and this is what I would encourage anyone, like when you have the idea, kind of pre-launch it and see if people resonate. And then, you know, if they don't, you can decide what you want to do later. But it has been very successful. And it is my favorite thing I've ever done, without a doubt.
I love the idea of mailing, like actually putting something in the mail. People don't do that anymore. So I bet people love that touch.
Right. And, you know, I understand that obviously that's not going to be right for every audience. If you have an audience who's super technical, you know, who really like all the gadgets and things, that might not be for them. But for my audience, it's absolutely the thing they love. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, especially with an older audience, I have a few food blogger friends that have fairly old audiences, and those people love mail. Yeah. So that's so cool. I'm curious how many people you send that to regularly.
So the spring issue, which would have went out right when we were recording this, or a couple of weeks ago, I had 220 subscribers, and that's worldwide. That includes some in Canada, I have a couple in Australia, which I appreciate and love, but the season is opposite, right? So since I'm in Northwest Montana, but they subscribe, and I have some in Japan and some other places. So it's very exciting. And my very big goal, we'll just put this out here, is to be at 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're going to do it.
Which is really a stretch, but I feel like I can do it.
Absolutely. That's doable.
Yeah.
And do people share a lot on social media about the stuff that you send them?
I'm going to say no. Some do, of course, but there's not a ton, or at least I haven't seen a ton of the sharing, you know, and I do look, of course, and I have a hashtag with it called, you know, hashtag the seasonal whisper. And some folks, of course, do, and I see those, but not a ton. But I also think that my core audience are not super active on social media.
Yeah, sure. That's a key point. Yes.
Yeah, they're just not super active. And that's fine. You know, the people who do, I really appreciate. And of course, I've shared it with a few folks, hoping that, you know, who are influencers or other bloggers, and hoping that they would share it. And I offer an affiliate program for them. So that's great.
Hey, awesome food bloggers, taking a quick break to talk about a new favorite strategy I've been using within RankIQ to garner some extra traffic for my food blog. First of all, you have to sign up for RankIQ if you're not already. The investment in this tool is minimal, and it will pay for itself in dividends. Trust me. Once you're inside, head to the rankings audit section and connect to your Google Search Console account. Run the audit in a single click. This will take just a few seconds. Now scroll down to the pages experiencing traffic contraction in the past 28 days section. Browse through these URLs, weeding out any seasonal content. Pull out the top 10 URLs or so and plug the focus keyword for each of them into an incognito Chrome window. If your post does not pop up in the top 3 results on Google, spruce them up and republish as soon as you can. Sprucing might include partial or full rewrites, new photos, breaking up paragraphs, adding valuable H2s to the post, running it through the RankIQ optimizer, or analyzing your competition and adding value to the post, aligning with what some of your competitors are doing. Don't copy, never copy, only emulate. Make the changes depending on what your post needs, republish, sit back and watch the post climb back up in the rankings. Head to rankiq.com today to get started. Now back to the episode. I love how you got that intuition and that little nudge to do that, like send something through the mail, and that you kept with it. You didn't let it go. How do you recommend other people brainstorm those ideas, or if they come to them, know how to know which ones to hold on to?
Right. One of the things, because I've had a newsletter for so long and I've had subscribers who stick around, and I have I was going to say an active, engaged Facebook page followers, but the algorithm can be a little funny, so you can't always rely on that to reach everyone. But the number one thing is ask your readers. You don't have to ask them like very specific questions, like if I offered an e-course for $30, would you be interested in taking it? You should ask them what they're most interested in learning from you specifically. So like, how can you help them with their lives so that you understand? And then once you know what they truly want and what interests you from that bucket, right? Because obviously you're going to get ideas. And I would say run a survey through your newsletter or through social media, give them very specific choices, because you're you don't want to like have everyone be like, oh, we want something that you can't do.
Yeah.
So give them specific choices and then see what lands, and then how to create a product from there, at least what to create a product on. And then hopefully your audience, whether they would relate to like an ebook or an e-course. I will say that I don't follow the trends super closely, but I have noticed that my own e-courses aren't selling as well as they used to. And I think people are kind of burnt out, but I can't obviously account for that in every way.
Yeah.
I think if you can find something that's different and really reaches your core audience, your real fans, that's what you want to do. And obviously if it sparks joy for you and they're following you, it probably sparks joy for them too. I think that's the important thing to remember. People follow you because they like you.
And the things that you offer. Yep. And those little nudges like you've talked about, Kathie, I think we all have those, and sometimes we ignore them because there are, quote, other things we have to get done, but we should stop and pay attention to those nudges sometimes, or at least write them down and let them stew a little bit and come back to them later, right?
Right. And I think for me, that's one of the things for me. That's when I really know that I should do something. Like if an idea sticks in my head and it just won't go away. And I am blessed with a really wonderful husband, and he doesn't really understand all the like kind of technical ins and outs of blogging, and he doesn't need to. But if I have an idea and I kind of talk to him about it, he's always just like, well, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Right? Like, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, obviously, we don't want to spend thousands of dollars. We don't want to invest thousands of dollars into something that might not work. But if it's a low cost thing, for instance, for my packet of mailing, okay, I had a really good printer. I bought a refurbished printer, but a really good printer. So because I didn't know how many I would sell. So I wanted to be able to just print at home. But I already had that, so it wasn't a big deal to do that. And obviously I need postage and other things. So, you just have to investigate the cost and make sure you build that into your product. But I say go for it. If you have an idea and it's really sticking with you and you think you can make it work, you won't know until you try.
Right. Yeah, put it out there. Like you said, what's the worst that can happen? People don't like it and you try something else, or you hone your idea a little bit and you do something a little bit different.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then do you ever investigate like what others are doing that it's maybe something similar, just to see how that's going for them?
Absolutely. And I don't mean that, you shouldn't obviously steal someone's idea, but you can look at products that are similar. What I did when I was interested in the seasonal whisper, specifically in mailing packets, was I went into Etsy and I looked to see if anyone else was selling sort of a mail subscription and what they were doing. And there were other people who were selling mail subscriptions, and some were just these gorgeous, like, letters. Like this woman, she traveled to France and she would draw these like kind of like journal entries, and she had these really beautiful like watercolor paintings and kind of thing that you could buy from her. And they were gorgeous. Not at all what I wanted to do, right? Like I had no idea, no inclination to do anything like that. I couldn't paint those things anyway. But it let me know that people were buying mailed things.
Yeah.
So like I knew, okay, well then at least people are buying this. And I still don't list my product on Etsy, but it was a good way for me to just kind of investigate and see. And then the other thing I did, of course, was just looked around to see what might be similar from an electronic standpoint. And of course, there's lots of magazines and things, right, that people subscribe to. And while it's not technically a magazine, it's similar enough that I thought, okay, this could work. And we'll just try it and see.
I like that you mentioned Etsy because that's not a typical like food blogger platform, But sometimes it's good to just widen our scope a little bit and see what other platforms people are selling on or where they're at. Like LinkedIn, I think a lot of us kind of miss because it's not, I don't know, it's like business and professional and but that's really important too for certain things. Etsy, there are all of these platforms that we don't always think of that provide us with opportunity potentially, right?
That's right, absolutely. And the other thing I did was like I went onto Instagram. I don't really use TikTok. I'm an older gal.
I'm an
I'm
older
almost 50.
gal.
I'm almost 50. I just don't TikTok just isn't my thing. But I did go onto Instagram and I just kind of looked around like different hashtags that I thought would be similar, like snail mail and things like that. What I ended up finding was there was a few people who did kind of like advice columns
Oh,
through the
yeah.
mail, which I thought was kind of clever and cute.
Aw.
Still, again, not what I'm doing, but it was clever and people were buying it. And there was a lot of people who were doing like little zines. So, they print small and do small runs of like magazines based on different topics. It might be recipes. It might be gardening. It might be, sports. It could be any number of things. But people are buying those printed things and having them mailed to them. And so I knew there was a market because these other people were doing it. Tapping into that market and selling, that's a whole other thing. But there is a market for it. And I think that's true for food bloggers, right? If all these people are like independently publishing small little booklets full of recipes, they might only be 5 or 10 recipes with cute little illustrations instead of full color photos. People are buying those.
Yeah.
So it's a fun way to just kind of look around. You just have to maybe think outside the box a little.
Something else that came to mind because I've talked to a few food bloggers very recently who create art, like fine art, either like drawings or paintings or something. And they have this passion for it because I think a lot of us are creatives and they want to put it out there and sell it. And they've had this nudge to do that. Do you think that that's something people could explore?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you could combine those two loves. If you're a really good artist and you can create recipes, maybe you could illustrate the recipes instead of take gorgeous photos and sell those because they're easier and cheaper to print. And I think there's a real market for things like, postcards and note cards with recipes on them that maybe have a drawing or have a really nice photo. Of course, you run into money with printing, color printing, but there's a market for these things. You just have to follow your passion. And as long as it obviously aligns with your current audience. And if it doesn't align with your current audience, then you got to build the audience that you want.
I've had an idea. Now I'm feeling a little nudged to do this, but I'm always looking for the note cards with inspiring, like, I don't know, quotes or statements or something on them. And all the ones out there are just, I don't know, they're just kind of dumb or like they're repetitive and it's like cliche. I just want something a little bit more unique. So I was thinking, I should just create my own. And I've had that come up a few times in the past year or so.
There you go.
But yeah, like printing and all of that, you have to think through. And I don't know how cost effective that would actually be.
Well, and again, you just would have to investigate, but you have to just, and you have, I think one of the things, and this is the thing I had to do was like, I really investigated the costs, and color printing is obviously a lot more expensive than black and white. And yes, especially as food bloggers, you love the big, gorgeous photos, right? The show-stopping photos. That's going to cost you a fortune to print. So you have to learn to find a way that's different, that still allows you to share what you want, but at a cost-effective way. And so black and white is the way to go for me. And I don't, in my mailed packets, I actually don't include photos because there's just, and it's unnecessary. Like I do include recipes, but I just feel like they don't need the photos to illustrate them. And no one has complained or thought that it needed them. So.
Right. And you can provide a QR code or URL for that. They don't need to see those in your mailings, right?
That's right. That's right. And then the other thing, because what you said that I always include in the packets, I actually have made a custom sticker every mailing, and it has a quote about the season on it. Spring is the time of plans and projects, which is a Leo Tolstoy quote. And though I hire a graphic designer to help me make it look nice because it's not my thing. And then I have it, printed, and they're not that expensive in full color to do. So, you can do something like that. You could do little stickers and sell them very cheaply. People love stickers.
They do. And there's so much opportunity for creativity with everything we're talking about. Do you have any other ideas for people? Like we've talked about an array of things, maybe some more digital products or something like that that people can get their minds going?
Sure. I absolutely think that ebooks can be a wonderful thing, and they can be low ticket and they don't have to be super hard. I think the thing to remember is that people pay for convenience. So you can take your recipes and compile them into an ebook and maybe just add one or two new ones that they can't find anywhere else and package that and sell it, because people will pay for the convenience of having it in one spot. So I think absolutely investigate those things, and, check again what your audience really wants. Maybe it's an e-course. Maybe they want a membership. If you want to do a memberships are more intensive
Yeah.
in a long-term kind of way.
Yeah.
Right. Like they require that you pay a lot more attention. Whereas when you sell an ebook, you're done. But the nice thing about those kinds of products is once you create it, you can theoretically just sell it forever, and it can be really low stress for you.
Yes. So I love your advice that you gave earlier. Just pay attention to those nudges, check in with your audience, be specific, and don't just, I've done this before, like, hey, what do you want from me? What sounds good? And then you get a whole slew of things that don't really align with anything you're working on. Or people just don't know. They're like, I don't know what I want. You tell me.
Right. And they often don't. Like Henry Ford once said, if I had asked people what they want, they would have said faster horses.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So people don't always know. So if you just guide them, and you're guiding them into not telling them what they want, but what you can provide.
Yeah.
That's what you need to remember. You're telling them what you can provide.
What your skills are equipped to handle, and also what you feel you want to do. So you're giving them those options. And then maybe when you present those things, other ideas or opportunities will come to you. You never know. I don't know, things come to me all the time where I'm like, oh, where did that come from? I never had thought of that before.
Always write those things down. And you just never know. You may not do anything with it right away, but always keep track of those things, because it may really help you later.
Yeah. We talked about the printing and being cognizant of cost, but how much do you stay in tune with making profit when you sell products?
I stay very in tune. I keep track of everything to make sure that the book work is going to work, because I can't blog for free. I can't work for free. So I keep very close track of my book work. I have a CPA who helps me, who does my taxes and that kind of thing. And if I have real questions, I can ask her. But I keep track of my book work very closely. Every day I do bookkeeping. I make sure I keep track of, the PayPal fees and the Stripe fees and the different software fees. All of that adds up, and I make sure that it's all built into the cost of my products. I personally don't need to make $1 million a year, because I live a simple life. But I have to make some money. And so I just make sure everything is built in, and I feel good about the price, but I'm also making a profit.
Yeah.
And only you can answer that for yourself based on your own, how much time something is going to take and whatever. The one thing I didn't build in well to the Seasonal Whisper was how much of my physical time it would take to put together the packets.
Right.
And I just didn't know it at the time. And now I do know it, and my husband and I are able to. And, like anything, the more you do something, the more efficient you become.
Yeah.
The first one's forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but time is money. You have to factor that in, because resources wise, it can make sense. And then you start doing it and it's like, wait a second, this is costing so much time that it's not worth it anymore. So you do have to kind of experiment with that, I think.
Right. And I think that's the one nice thing, a very nice thing about ebooks or other kinds of e-products that are repetitive, is that once you've done it, you've done it. And so once you earn back your initial time, everything you sell from there on out is pure profit beyond the fees and whatever. So.
Oh, this is so great. I feel suddenly very creative. I want to go just start making art and selling it and sending it around the world. Do you have any other ideas, Kathie, for people if they're just wanting a little bit of help brainstorming about what they can jump into?
I would say, I don't condone stealing, but definitely look at what other people are doing in your space. One of the things I have done for a long time, I subscribe to a lot of newsletters, not because I want to steal. First of all, I I schedule a lot of things to social media. So I like to, when I get a newsletter, it's easy for me to just be like, oh yeah, that strawberry recipe looks great. I'll schedule that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also just to kind of see what other people are doing and kind of, I'm not very in tune to kind of like pop culture and things like that. And so by subscribing to newsletters, I can see what other people are doing in my niche or niche adjacent. If you're an Instapot food blogger, then maybe you want to just look and see what other Instapot bloggers are doing. But if you're something more general like desserts, look at a variety of desserts and see what they're doing and what resonates with their audience. Maybe look for ways to even collaborate, which I think is really important too, is to just reach out. When I have a new product, I've been blogging a long time. I know a lot of bloggers. I reach out and ask them if they'd like to see a sample. I use Sendowl to deliver my ebooks and things, and they have an affiliate program. And so I offer a commission to other bloggers if they like what I have and would like to sell it to their audience. So I think it's important to reach out.
That's such a great idea. I'm glad you mentioned that because we do work in such a silo sometimes. We work alone. We just assume that we have to do everything by ourselves when that's not true. Actually, getting together with other people who do similar things can take time pressure off of you and reach a wider audience and all of those things that we just don't always remind ourselves of.
And, I think it's fine to reach out to someone that you've never talked to before. I mean, obviously, we all get the crappy spammy emails like, can we insert a link? We'd love to collaborate. Don't do that. Be genuine in reaching out to other influencers or bloggers because they have the same kind of stuff happening all the time. But be genuine. I've been following you for a while. I really like your stuff. I think you might like this. I can offer you a commission or I can send you samples. I can do whatever. Can we collaborate? And I think that is just a wonderful way to do that. And I think it's important when you see other bloggers doing something that you really like, that you tell them so and maybe promote them in a way, even if it doesn't earn you a commission. It's okay to share their things on social media or put a plug in your newsletter or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, so inspiring. Kathie, thank you for all of this. This was so valuable. And I hope this gives people just some creative juices to go out and create products that align with them and their audience and all of that good stuff. So thank you so much.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. Do you have either a favorite quote or words of inspiration to leave us with today?
It's funny because you mentioned the quotes earlier, and this one's probably cliche, but it really is my favorite, which is comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, I love that one.
So I love that quote, and I remind myself of it all the time when I see somebody who has a bigger following or seems to be doing really well. I just remind myself that I shouldn't compare myself to them because, I don't really know what's happening to them, and just I want to be joyful in what I'm doing. So that's my favorite.
Oh, love that. It's so simple, but it really does steal your joy.
It does, absolutely.
Look at other people too closely.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll put together a show notes page for you, Kathie. If you want to look at those, head to eatblogtalk.com/homespun seasonal living. Tell everyone where they can find you, Kathie.
You can find me at homespunseasonalliving.com and Homespun Seasonal Living on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. And thank you for listening today, food bloggers. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Eat Blog Talk. Please share this episode with a friend who would benefit from tuning in. I will see you next time.